there it is. There you have it, right? Welcome to the Talking Motorbikes tonight, and I'm on with somebody I've known his entire life.
Yep.
Um, he's come up, he's a videographer. Is that what I call
Yeah.
you? Like,
Everything.
yeah, you're like that guy. And before I get going, I'm just gonna tell the audience like what we were talking about
Yep.
earlier.
Yep.
Like I was the way I describe you is when I was a kid, I used to take all the GI Joes and like take all the weapons and shit off of all the GI Joes and like put them on one. And bro, that was you at
That
Portimao
was me.
when the
That was
attack
me.
team went to World Superbike a few years ago with Gagne. And I see you running down the pits frantically,
Yep.
and you've got your tripod and like your camera body with the 600 lens on it. And then all around you is all these like cameras at various
Attachments,
lenses,
batteries, lenses,
dude. Like,
everything. Yep.
and
Yep.
you're running like
Full sprint.
sprinting.
Full sprint. Yep. I stay strapped. What can I say?
Oh man. And it's like I got to hang out with you for a little bit that
Yeah.
that weekend, but I mean, you were so on the pin, man.
Yeah. The thing with race weekends is, especially, in order to make it profitable, you have to have more than one client. I mean, I ended up getting to a point where I could have one client in World Superbike, which made it easier. But like, especially like that weekend was my first weekend working officially with Dorna, but I was also
Mm,
working with Yamaha. So I was
right.
filming every single session. And so I had to bounce from every single session from different places. And so
Yeah.
sometimes I didn't have a scooter and I had to just book it on the foot.
Dude,
So
you
it
were
was a little hectic.
like I was like, man, dude, like I mean, you've got to be doing, 10 miles plus a
Oh,
day.
easily, easily. I mean,
Yeah.
I haven't tracked something. It was funny because I always wear an Apple Watch with me, and all sometimes I don't have access to a scooter or car, whatever, so I have to walk, the tracks. And fortunately, all the tracks in Europe have great access roads, so it's really easy to get from one place to another.
Right.
But I'll be walking to whatever corner, and then I'll get a buzz on my Apple Watch. It's like, start outdoor walk, and then I start, and it's like, oh, I've been going for 15 minutes. Wow, I've already covered 1.5 kilometers. So it's a workout in itself.
So, you know what? I'm just gonna go back to the Wayback Machine,
Yep.
get this thing going here. Like, again, like I've known you your whole life, and when you were born, your dad kind of disappeared a little bit, and then he came back several years later, and you were kind of doing the mini bike thing, right? Like that's how you
Yeah.
started.
Yeah. So my dad started riding when he was probably like 01, I think, the beginning of
Yeah,
early 2000s.
yeah, right
So I
after this thing started.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I grew up around bikes. My dad had, Ducati 916, ZX7R was his big thing. So he
Oh
had
yeah.
that. So I grew up in like, I grew up going to Fontana. That was like, okay, I was a little too young to remember, but like '04 Fontana, was, that's where a lot of my memories come from.
Right.
And so around 2011, my dad was doing CVMA, like right at the beginning of it.
Yeah. Right when we started it.
And then that's when I got into racing because my parents dragged me to Laguna for MotoGP that year.
Yeah.
And Stony Landers had a Mini Moto USA booth and had Rocco's little DM pocket bike. And so I said, I'm
Oh
like, really
yeah.
cool. And so, yeah, after that, I started riding, and the next year started racing.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I remember it was like you were kind of there like at the tail end of like Rubes and
Yeah.
G3, right?
Yeah. So I started riding when I was okay. Well, that's a lie. When I was 6, my dad got a little DR50, like a little Suzuki like dirt bike, and I would do like 4 laps around the cul-de-sac and be like, I'm done. And then my dad sold it because he was like, I'm not, no. So
Right.
I then had like a normal childhood up until I was 11, and then I started riding. But because I started riding when I was 11, I was a little bit more mature and older than when the other guys my age started, so I picked things up faster. So by the
Okay.
time we were, 15, like I was at the same speed as them. I had 3 years less, but I was the same, I caught up to their level by the time that we went to Moto
I,
America.
I like how you're not racing anymore and you're still talking shit about your homies.
Hell yeah. Of course. It's not my fault. Just saying how it is.
Oh, I guess, dude. Yeah, Ruben and G3. If I see you guys in the chat, hopefully you guys can address what he just said. Um, Yeah. Yeah, so you did, like, the YSR thing, right? Or was it the Honda,
And a
whatever
Star 50. Yeah.
four-stroke version of that mini
No,
bike?
so we started on the pocket bikes,
Mm.
and then rough. Well, when I was on the pocket bikes and when I started, they were on the NSR 50s. You know, little
Yeah.
Honda 50
Yeah,
cc
that's
two stroke,
NSR 50,
zero
yep.
power, like 7 horsepower.
Right,
And so that was what we learned because there were no volleys then, and
right.
that was our mini bikes. And so by the time that I got into the NSR, they had been on the NSR for a few years, but then we started racing with each other.
Right.
And so I probably got 2 years on the NSR, I think.
Okay.
And my second year was quite good on that because we were racing M1 GP, and it was towards the end of that was 2014. So end of 2014 is kind of when we started, venturing to other bikes. I remember my next one was an RS85, so I think it was a CR85 motor and a RS125 chassis, but it
Yeah,
was like a full custom spec, like custom motor mounts and everything. So those combinations usually have tons of vibration. This one had none. It was a dream. Like I still miss that bike because it was so easy to ride and so much fun. But I only raced it for a couple months, maybe
right,
4 or 5 months, because that's when Motor America announced the KTM Cup, and we all decided as a group that that's what we're going to do. Obviously, Gabe at the time went to Red Bull Rookies Cup, so he didn't
right.
really join us till the year after. But me, Ruben, and Ashton all kind of hopped on and then went, Moto America racing.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember all of that, dude,
Yeah.
like, I remember showing up, Ludwig had me showing up to Chuckwalla to work with you guys all
Yeah. Yep.
dude, it was like
I remember that
eh
day. I
right?
remember that day. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's just kind of funny, you guys are all I think Ashton was the first to be done
Yeah.
racing,
Yeah.
but,
And that was because that was end of 2015. That was a really tough year
right,
because I believe that was Joanna Bitter was the year that she passed
that
that
sounds accurate,
Auto
yeah,
Club, I'm pretty sure. I think that was the one that was in the nail in the coffin, but there was another writer who passed that year. And
right,
I mean, I'm not gonna say speak on their behalf, but I'm pretty sure that those were the key components.
yeah,
And I mean also like in order to go and take racing seriously takes a ton of commitment.
oh, yeah.
And
Well,
if
you
you
certainly did. I mean, I remember you did the 390 Cup, like, I
Yeah,
don't know if you did the
3
whole
years.
series,
No, no.
but you
The
did Laguna.
2015, we missed 2 rounds. I missed Laguna because I was injured because I got T-boned at Utah, not my fault, and
It's
broke my
never your
collarbone
fault.
for a second time, same one. And then, so I missed Laguna, and then we skipped round 1 of Road America. Thank God, it was pissing down that round. But
Isn't
I
it
did all the
always?
other rounds. So we did Barber, we did Utah, we did Jersey. So we did majority of the season, but the rest of them we just did, East Coast rounds and one Barber round.
Okay.
So I mean, uh, I'm very curious what would have happened that 2017 season if we did a full year, because
Mhm.
that was my most competitive year.
It was.
I was very close to podiums in Moto America
Yep.
that year.
You were setting lap records at Chuckwalla too, man,
Yeah, yeah.
right?
I'll take that. I'll take that with pride. Hey,
Yeah.
technically, I still have a lap record at Laguna because I got on the last lap of the race. I got the fastest lap, and they didn't run the spec the next year. So
Ah,
technically, I'm a lap
you're
record
still the
holder at
king.
Laguna.
Yeah.
Unless if someone's gonna put on that terrible settings, that's gonna hold till the end of the time. So
It's so funny.
yeah, I know. I like that little fun fact,
Little
but
digs.
yeah, yeah. Anyways, yeah, so I never did a full season, but we did we did quite a few rounds over there. So I was at least able to test my pace with some of the
See
other
where you're
guys.
at.
Yeah.
Right. Well,
So
then this is kind of like a point of contention with you because, like, that summer, the summer that you were doing so well, you came to my track day at Laguna,
mhm.
and we let you take some laps on our, Yamaha
Yeah.
R6
Yeah.
that year, the
Yeah.
2017
Yeah,
R6,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
So, tell me a little bit about the R6 and the KTM 390 Cup.
Well, first of all, riding the stock R6 that was yours was terrifying because I was like, as one mistake and I'm buying that bike, and I'm not doing that.
Well, you weren't buying it, your dad was.
Yeah. But then
So who
that,
cares, right?
yeah,
Dad's
yeah,
gonna swipe the
and
card,
then
it'll be
and then
fine.
I'm doing extra chores around the house. Yeah, okay, sure.
Yeah,
Now,
yeah.
the 600 is a weird thing because I ended up racing the 600 after the 2017 Motor America season.
No, but how did you get the 600? That's what I was going with.
Oh, the one that we bought? Oh, yeah.
Yes,
I paid for,
yes,
like, 80% of it with KTM cash. It's
yeah,
like this is a fun story. So, this is a
yeah.
story of how KTM USA implemented the Gray Pham law because, so here's the thing. They had contingency with KTM that was basically you get certain amount of KTM cash
Yeah,
for your results. So wins, podiums, results,
yeah.
whatever. And in the 2016-2017 CVMA season, I won 22 out of 25 races that we did. And I was on the podium, I think 24 out of 25, just because I crashed at round one and missed Sunday. And so I racked up a shit ton of KTM cash, Okay, my dad spent some of it to get some spare parts, but in the end, I had 8 or 9,000 KTM cash. And the rule was you could spend it on KTM products or at KTM associated dealers. They didn't specify what you could spend it on at KTM associated dealers. So I
Yeah.
may or may not have bought like 80% of a 2017 R6 from one of the associated dealers with KTM cash. And then they found out, and then they made a rule for the next year called the Gray Pham law that says that you have to buy KTM products at those associated dealers. So
Yeah,
you
yeah.
can't use that loophole anymore. But I may or may not have bought a Yamaha with KTM cash.
I mean, that's how you do it, kid.
Yeah,
You know,
I'm
you
holding
show
my weight with the racing program. Okay, I'm not just using my parents' money. Okay, I'm pulling my weight.
right. Oh,
And then and then
absolutely.
and then after I stopped racing, we sold the R6. It funded the renovation of our backyard. So, I'm giving back to I'm giving back to the
Get
parents.
back to the family.
Yeah,
Okay, the
exactly.
family, right?
You know it.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah. So
yeah.
that's a great
So,
family
yeah,
law.
you bought the R6 with the KTM money, man.
Yeah.
That was so funny. I
Yeah.
remember it being, like, such a big deal. It was like
Yeah. It was so funny.
and, like,
Remember
right after, they
what
were so mad.
the best part about it is I found because we were doing a little track day at Apex on like CC5s, and I don't remember his name, but one of the KTM guys who was always at all the rounds for the KTM Cup, like helping out and stuff. I started chatting with up because I hadn't seen him in a while, and he told me that story, and I started cracking up. I'm like, "There's no way," because I didn't think they'd
Yeah.
find out. I just figured that you just spent the money at the dealer, and it was no big deal. But then they found out, and they made a whole amendment to their program, which was so funny to me.
So what happened with the R6? Like, I thought you got going pretty good, and then
It was good. Um, One of the things that I kind of wish is that I spent more time just learning it rather than going straight into racing because I used to use my size and weight as like an excuse for why I wasn't acclimating when that's just
Mhm.
not true because there's guys who are shorter than me and going on bigger, faster bikes than me. That's just not true. In the end, I just didn't spend enough time acclimating to how the 600 rides because it's a lot more power and a lot different than the 390. And at the time, the twins weren't a huge thing. You had the
Right.
SV650 and Andy Palmer starting the FZ09 program, but even then, it wasn't anything crazy. And so I went straight to the 600s. And the biggest issue for me was honestly just braking and being able to support myself under braking
Right.
because the speed difference is so big and I didn't understand how to approach braking, and it's like
Right.
one of my old roommate in Spain, he's now adjusting. He went from the Aprilia R660 Dale Lanuza, and now he's moving to 600, and he had to go through the same thing. Granted,
Yeah.
he's a lot taller. He's a full-fledged athlete, so he's stronger than I was probably. And
You were
so
pretty flacco, dude. Like, your arms were, like, that big around, bro.
yeah, yeah, yeah. It was a work in progress, but my point being is that like I struggled to be able to understand how to support myself, and as a result, I didn't have the confidence that I needed.
That's fair.
And without the confidence, I wasn't able to learn how to control the bike properly. Like I never learned how to spin, never learned how to back it in. Like there was techniques that I never got to level, because there's some techniques that you need to get on a bike with enough power to really truly learn. Like, okay, you
Right.
can learn throttle control a little bit with the 390, but you're not going to be power sliding out of corners and standing it up and doing all this crazy shit. Like, you're not going to be
Yeah.
wheeling out of corners on the 390. You know, the rear brake
If
is
you are, it's because 'cause you're cheating.
yeah, yeah, but you're not learning how to use rear brake on a 390. And if you do, it's minimal. You're dragging it. You're not actually using it to control power. Whereas once you get
Right.
to 600, those are all key components. And I just never got to a comfort level, or I guess you could say a skill level, where I was able to really hone those skills.
Right.
And I probably should have spent more time just kind of relearning the basics with that bike.
Yeah.
And
So you
so,
had some
yeah.
smashes,
Oh my God,
right?
yeah. And it's funny because all my worst crashes were on the 390, but I had some big ones on the 600. And the I guess I want to say my downfall, but what ended up leading to me stopping racing was a combination of things. Um, the first one was that university was coming up. Like,
Right.
my parents were supportive of the racing and everything like that, but they're like, we want you to go to 4-year university. That was like a hard set rule. And so by now I was a senior in high school. I was approaching the second half of senior year. So I was like, I know that by the time that like summer of 18 comes around, I'm gonna have to stop racing.
Mm.
And so that was on my mind. I had a couple big crashes. I tucked a front in the bullet check wallet and launched myself off the lip. Smacked my head really good. So that gave me another concussion on top of the ones that I
Right.
previously had.
Well, it's, like, when you get a concussion, like, the cool thing is you just easily get another one,
Yeah,
you know?
it's so cool.
And another one.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, and you have different side effects too.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. First one targeted my long-term memory. This one was a short-term. Ooh,
Yeah, I got the
exciting.
short-term one and, the speech pattern one.
Speech pattern, and then yeah, because I remember we talked about that a while
Yeah,
ago. And
right.
then you get the personality change too.
Oh,
That's
yeah,
always a fun one.
yeah.
Anyway, so I had the low side,
Let's
which
roadmap
was,
this negativity, bro. Let's
let's just dwell in it. No, so I had that crash, it honestly wasn't a terrible one because I didn't get knocked out or anything. It was just more of an annoyance because I was like, okay, well, now the bike's trashed. It was a brand new bike before that, and now the bike's all effed up. My
Right,
leathers are effed up. My helmet, the fin on the back is dangling. Like, I'm like, this just sucks.
right.
And so I ended up riding the rest of the day as well. But it was just like, it's just an annoyance. And then afterward, like, oh, maybe I have a concussion. And then at Turkey Days that same year,
Yeah,
I got taken out going to the last corner, and there's video
right.
proof of it too. I still don't know who the guy is. I zero idea, but I was going to the last corner, taking my normal line, and rather than pass me on the inside, the dude decides that he's going to pass me around the outside as I'm going to the braking zone on the left, and clips on my bar and sends me into him. And then
Mm.
I go down. I think I fractured my wrist or something, and he just kept right off in the sun. Never came up and said anything to me, you
That
know.
happens.
And then after that, I was like, okay, I'm done, because I was slowly experiencing burnout because 2016 in Moto America was a little bit difficult just because there was a lot of pressure, especially like when we went to Barber.
Right,
When we're driving ourselves up and it's like any other race weekend with the a little bit extra pressure of Moto America, it's one thing. But when you're shipping bikes out, you're flying, you're in hotels, you're getting all this extra accommodation, there's a little extra pressure.
mm,
And there were just some that weekend there was a lot of extra pressure, and from that point on I kind of slowly was experiencing burnout, not to the point where it was like super serious or anything. Like, obviously I did a full CVMA season and had great results,
right.
but once I got to the R6, I just kind of was losing that drive a little bit. And by the time that crash happened, I'm like, I'm just kind of over it. It's not that I don't love it anymore, and I still love riding, I still do it occasionally, but I was just like, do I really want to keep,
Smashing your face.
racing, training at this level? Like, I know I'm gonna have to stop in 6 months anyway, so it's, you know, maybe I
Right.
should take this time to transition back to
Well, I kinda
life.
remember what you guys said. I mean,
Yeah,
like, your dad was basically like, "Dude, like, the kid smashed his head again." Like,
yeah.
there was, like, neuro stuff, right? Like
Yeah, we ended up doing concussion post-concussion testing just to
yeah.
see where my baseline concussion testing, which I wish that we knew about and did before the first concussion, but that would've been nice. But at least when we went after that second hit, well, I guess it was 3rd or 4th, but, the
Yeah,
last hit, after we did that, the results were way off from what they were after I healed from the one before. So
right,
we knew that I was all jacked up.
right.
And so it just got to a point where I was like, I'm over it, you
It's,
know?
like, not worth it anymore, right?
No, no. And here's
Yeah,
the thing, and this goes back to what I was saying about the sacrifices and how much it takes to go race professionally. And you really have to want it.
yeah.
I knew probably or from that round in 2016, I don't want it that badly, you know. Like I
Okay.
don't want it badly enough that I'd be willing to put my parents in debt, have to sell a house,
Right,
have to sell cars and that stuff like that. I don't want it that bad. I want it bad, you know. Don't get me wrong. I want to do as
yeah,
well as I can. I want to go race while I can, but at the same time, if it doesn't happen, I'm okay with that. You know,
right.
I'm gonna enjoy my career while I have it and the experiences I made. Like some of my best years were racing, you know, and the stuff that we did at the track, the races I had, stories I had. But I'm not gonna, you know, force my parents to fund me moving to Spain and training every day and buying all these bikes and stuff and paying coaches and that. Like
If you're
I
not
don't
into it.
I don't see myself putting in the effort because I want to race, more out of an obligation because I like racing. You know what I mean? There's a
Right,
difference. And
right.
I knew from my own point of view that like I'm not gonna put in the same amount of effort that these other guys will. So I don't want to continue down this path if I'm not gonna commit to it the way that other people are. I'm not fully in it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, you went to college for a minute.
Yeah. The last
You're
three
like, I
semesters.
remember you were, like, super smart kid, man, like, you were, you know, like,
If it
switched
wasn't for one of my
on.
concussions, I probably would have had a 4.0, 4.1, 4.2 like overall GPA in high school. But then I got a
Right.
really bad concussion, missed 3 weeks of school, and everything went downhill. So
Yeah.
yeah. So I mean, I like to think that I am of the more intelligent side of things, you know. And I think it. I also think it comes from the fact that I like puzzles. I like problem solving, you know, and I like dissecting things, and I think that's also why I've been able to be successful when it comes to business and from like the film side of things because I take a more analytical approach to things, you know.
Yeah.
You
You did
know.
the same shit when you were writing, honestly.
Yeah. I mean, my philosophy things, if you want to do something seriously, you need to treat it like a business, you know.
Yeah.
You need to have a program, you need to have a schedule, a routine, and you need to commit to it. But it can't be like random, you know.
Right.
So for instance, if I'm gonna commit to doing content, I need to know that okay, I'm gonna post these days, I'm gonna do this kind of content. This is my schedule for producing this content and filming this content.
Right.
If I don't have that schedule, then there's no structure to it. If there's no structure, it's not gonna perform. You know?
Right. Right. Yeah, like, we
So
have this whole, like, me, Mark, and Ryan have that whole throttle sauce thing, and
yeah.
it's like, dude, we're, like, every Sunday, there's, like and then there's, like, a Thursday news piece, and, like,
Mhm.
we've got so much that we're
Yep.
rolling, like, we're gonna
Yep.
start posting on other days,
Yeah.
you
You
know?
have to take it seriously. You also have to have fun with it because if you take it too seriously, you're gonna dry yourself
Burn out.
out. But
Right.
if you take it too casually, then it's not gonna be performing and doing how you want. You know what I mean? You know what I'm
Mm.
trying to say, right?
Yeah, dude. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's basically like the effort you put in as a direct, effect on the results that you get.
100%.
It's like racing.
100%.
It's like
Yeah,
racing,
exactly.
right?
Exactly.
Um,
So,
but, like, how did you like, when did you decide like, I know when, but, like,
yeah.
tell the people watching here, like, when did you decide to you were done racing, you were in
Yeah.
school, and, like, when did you decide you were gonna be this camera dude?
So, it actually haven't been okay, so this is a good story. So, when I was like 6, 7, 8, something like that, when I was younger, I used to do Christmas movies for my family. So, my grandmother, She is very talented when it comes to film and media. So she was executive producer for a bunch of movies. She ran several film festivals, so she knows her stuff.
Right.
She taught me how to edit at a young age. So when I was like 7, 8, I would start doing these little short films for my family for Christmas time, whatever. I go over for a weekend, film it. Then she teach me how to edit on iMovie. And so it taught me the basics. So when I started racing, I would edit little GoPro montages with music and stuff, post on YouTube. And it wasn't until my 2017 race season that I decided I was going to start vlogging. So um, my dad kind of passed it down his like '09 R6. And so when we decided that we were going to get the newer one, the 17, I asked, hey, can I sell this and use the funds to buy proper camera, microphone, lens, all that stuff so I can start making videos? And I made a whole like presentation, PowerPoint and everything for them. And so
Of
they
course
said
you did.
yes. And so I got the equipment. I started vlogging. I did a few vlogs. I took them down because they were not great. And so I remember like first round of the year from Moto America, we were in Utah. I was filming it, documenting it. I was filming myself. I was filming, other riders, and that's kind of where it started because that was the first time I really went like trackside and whatnot. And then 2018, when I stopped racing, I remember one of the first videos I made. We went to Auto Club Speedway and I filmed Jackson Blackman on the R3.
Yeah.
And I remember that I was just doing it for fun because at the time, the film industry was huge with motocross. So there
Yeah.
was a collection of like 10, 15 of some of like the OG filmers in the SoCal moto scene. And so these guys are like, well known in the moto community. And so they go out to Fox Raceway or Paula, which is 45 minutes from me, any day, and there's pros out there all the time testing, especially in the preseason to motocross.
Right.
And so you can go out on a Tuesday, like Tuesdays like pro days because that's during the week, so there's less people. So all the pros go out, fresh track, they all go testing. So I would go out to Paula and I would just go film whoever's there. And that's where I really honed like the basics of my skills.
Right.
And that was where like the short 15-second kind of videos were popping
Well, you
off,
were making vines.
yeah, basically. And so everyone was doing that with motocross. And I was like, oh, no
Yeah.
one's really doing that with road racing. I should do that because I like the style, It was throw some rap music in there, some action shots, you're good.
Yeah.
And so I went out to Auto Club and did that with Jackson. And so we did that. I think I did one with Toby Kamsuk at Chuckwalla as well, like just for fun. And some people started seeing. And so uh, Roger Davis from Hot Bodies contacted
Okay.
me because they used to sponsor me. And he was like, hey, we got this program. Ashton Yates is riding our Ninja 400. Do you want to go to Laguna? We'll hire you. And I'm like, as a 18-year-old kid out of high school, I'm like, yeah,
Hell
get
yeah.
paid to go film? Yes. And I mean,
Suckers.
yeah, my parents were already going there to go spectate, so I just stayed with them. Went and filmed, and that was like my first like paid gig, right?
Right.
And we were there, and then another team that I was friends with, Altus Motorsports, they were like, "Oh, hey, you're doing videos? We can use some." And so, like, it kind of took off from there, because
Yeah.
at the time, no one was doing the short form content. Like, no one was doing the short punchy videos that I was doing. This was before Reels too.
Oh yeah.
This was 2018. And so I started doing it and it just kind of took off. And so I started university at the end of 2018 in the fall. Great. It was some of my best times because it was me, a bunch of kids my age, doing stupid stuff in the dorms.
Yeah.
And so I spent all the first semester just enjoying it, going to classes. And then second semester comes around, and that's when it all went downhill because I got basically the call. I was like, hey, do you want to come film the Daytona 200? I'm like, hell yeah.
Yeah.
You're gonna pay me? You're gonna hire me? You're gonna fly me out? Yeah. So I went out with Josh Hayes and Melissa Paris because Josh was gonna race the 200.
Right.
And so we went out, we tested at Jennings. And fun fact, that's where I met Sean Dillon Kelly because he had just come back from Europe from Rookies Cup and was testing with them for. And so that's when we met. And then pretty much everyone who was at that test went straight to the 200 because M4 was also racing with Sean. And so The 200 was the first time that I really got to stretch my legs because I got a fresh lens, like a proper telephoto lens. Like I even think I might have had a new camera at the time. So it was like a proper, like, this is when I really got to like do my magic. And so filmed the 200, came back to school, realized that I could not catch up like I thought I could. So I fell way behind. Then
Right.
actually got the call to go do round one of Motor America at Atlanta, and I said, "Of course, yeah, I'll just catch up." And then I didn't catch up, and I failed 2 classes. So, so I was like, "Oh, well, this sucks. Parents were not happy. Sorry." And so,
Yeah.
af
I remember it was like I remember it was like, "Dude, Gray dropped out of school." I was like, "What, dude? Like, and you're okay with this?" And he's like, the kid's he's a grown ass man. He can make his own decisions."
yeah,
Yeah.
it took some
I'm sure
convincing,
the
but
conversation was a little more colorful at home, but
oh, it was
eh,
actually calmer than you think, but they had time to process it.
right
Anyway,
on.
so long story short, the summer of 2019, 'cause it's now the next year, I went and did, like, proper Moto America. So I did, I think, Laguna, Utah, and Sonoma,
Mhm.
and I think I even did Road America as well. And so it was one of those ones where this was, like, a big networking year for me because it
Yeah,
was every round I had different clients, you know?
right.
It was a big learning year also because this was, like, my content was still rough, you know? Like, I
Yeah,
still didn't fully know what I was doing, but enough that it was, like, better than most of what was out there content-wise,
right,
and a lot of people, like, saw what I was doing, you know, because like I said, no one was doing the short form content.
right.
And so every round had different client. And then my parents were like, okay, we'll let you go do these rounds for Moto America, but when school comes time, no working. Like, we want you to be full into school.
Yeah,
I was like, sure, no problem. So 2019 fall comes around. It's first semester of sophomore year. I'm like, okay, we're gonna lock in. We're gonna do these classes. I'm not gonna fail. I'm gonna get good grades, whatever. And it started slowly going downhill because I ended up going into I'll say it, like, I was actually depressed for a few days, you know, like, couldn't sleep, couldn't eat, like, I was in a mess. And what I after the hindsight, might have broken up with my girlfriend at the time, but that's besides the point. What I realized is that I dedicated my entire life for 6 years to racing. You know, everything was eat, sleep, breathe racing. You know, I would train, 5, 6 days a week, whether it was gym, running, I would do cone drills in the street, go to the track on the weekend. And then we kind of cut it off cold turkey, after turkey days, it was just nothing. And so there
yeah,
was a big gap in my life and I didn't know how to film it and fill it. And what ended up happening is that entrepreneurship and owning a business, not the filming, owning the business is what filled that gap. And when my parents asked me to stop working for the for first semester of sophomore year, that gap was now empty and it was missing something. And I didn't know at the time because, I was blinded because I was just like, oh, school, 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 life sucks.
right.
But it wasn't until after my ex and I broke up that I started like, okay, I got to get my shit together. I don't know what's going on. And in first semester of freshman year, I joined the Entrepreneurship Society at my university, and that's where I met some of my business friends. And they're all successful doing their own things now. One's got several million on YouTube, the other's got millions on TikTok and whatnot. But we ended up forming a friendship where we would bounce business ideas off each other. And after my ex and I broke up, I went back to there because I was like, I gotta figure out my stuff. And so it all took was one of those like meetings. My buddy Cameron went with me, and afterwards we went to the library. We just sat down and we started bouncing ideas, and I kind of got that spark back. And then that's when I realized I was like, I can't not work. Like, this is what I want to do with my life is I want to be a business owner. I want to go do this. And at the time, filming is what I wanted to do, and filming is what I was good at. And so it took a while, and the entire semester was tough because my parents were pestering me because they're parents and they want the best for me about my grades, and our relationship soured a bit. But it
Yeah,
it got to a point where like even my mom was like, well, you could take a leave of absence, and figure what you want to do. And I was like,
yeah,
I was already thinking about that, but I didn't know how you react. And it got to a point where I basically drafted up a really long email and I like MLA cited like websites and whatnot. And I was like, look, this is what's going on. I've already proven that I can make money doing this. I want to take a shot. What, like, are you guys into this? And so I ended up sending them down for dinner. I explained it all to them and they're like, okay, well, we'll support you on this, but you have to pay your own bills now. I'm like, fine by
No
me.
PowerPoint presentation in that time?
Oh, no, I sent an email instead. There's no
Okay.
PowerPoint. Okay. I should have, but I didn't need to. And so it was almost like poetic timing because literally a week later, I got a call from my buddy Chad, who is like, "Hey, I want can I fly you out to Sacramento to film like an opening season video for me for Flat Track?"
Yeah.
And I was like, "Hell yeah." So I literally flew up. We went to I don't remember whose track it was. I think it might have been Gage McAllister's dad's farm or ranch because he had a flat track there. Anyways, we went and basically filmed an entire video. And then one of those evenings or morning or something, I was just at the house, we're getting ready to leave. And I got a call from Kyle Wyman. And he was like, hey, listen, last year was our first year with the Ducati. Feel like we missed the opportunity to storytell the progress. Want to know if
Right.
you're interested in doing something this year. And I was like, well, it's a great timing on your part because I just dropped out of school. So that year I ended up forming my official business, GP Industries. And so that was the year 2020 was the year I decided to go all in.
Hmm.
And to cut things short, I ended up racking up 7 clients over 2 championships. So I had 2 documentary series in Moto America with 2 clients doing social media content. And then I worked for Moto America directly providing footage to them.
Right.
And then in Flat Track, I was working with 2 riders, one doing documentary, one doing social. Although he kind of did, with Chad, I was kind of doing social media, like long form too. But that was one of the best years, like fun wise, but also one of the most successful because it was one of those years where like while I was still young, I wanted to grind out work and really push myself. And I
Yeah.
mean, you remember this was COVID. So right after I dropped out of school and for my company, the world went quiet and I'm like, oh
Right.
shit, how am I gonna make money? But luckily we were the first to get our legs up and running. And so Moto America, I mean, they somehow managed to do, I think, 9 or 10 rounds and squeezed into the second half of the year. So by the end of the year, I was doing 8 weekends in a row, just back to back between Moto America and
Yeah.
AFT, just back to back to back to back. And it was difficult. Like I fell behind on the editing, but I mean, we got it done in the end. But that was like a big turning point. And that's when the content really started to come together. Like there's some edits
Yeah.
that I still go back and look because they're just so good, you know?
Yeah. Well, you know what? There's one gig that you forgot to mention. Like
Yes.
early on, and like
Yeah.
right when you
What
got
year was this?
started.
What year was this?
What is it? Like 18, 17, 18, right?
I think it'll be 18.
Yeah, I was gonna say 18.
I
Yeah.
think
So like there was a little awards banquet, this is back when I was still part of government and
yeah,
like I was doing these awards banquets with CVMA and I was
I
kind of like the
forgot about that.
guy. Yeah, I was the guy that was like supposed to set it up.
Yeah.
And so like one year we did the one at the rooftop at the Palms. I think you were at that one.
I was there. That was 17. That's when in
Yeah.
no, it was in Vegas.
Yeah.
Yeah, 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 yeah. So
Yeah, in
that was the one that
Vegas.
I won because that was when I won the CVMA championships.
Somehow we shitbagged our way into the rooftop and
Yeah,
at the Palms Casino
yeah,
for a Southern California
yeah.
club race
Uh-huh.
series.
Yeah. Yeah, because I remember after
Man.
that, me and my friends, all my friends who I race with, we all
Yeah.
just went to town on Vegas. We went
Oh,
like
yeah.
walking down the strip. It was hot. It was like 100
100%, dude.
degrees at like
Hot as
2
shit.
a.m.
Yeah.
Yeah, we
Totally.
ended up at Denny's at some point.
Oh, I'm sure you did.
Yep.
Yeah. As you should,
Yeah.
And then the
So,
other the other one, the
yeah.
following year was like, "Dude, how do we top the casino?" And it was like, "Let's do a harbor cruise in Newport Beach." And then that was like your first gig, right?
That was one of them, yeah, because you guys had me come out to like a round of CMA and I just
Yeah.
filmed it. Didn't really know what I was doing. I was like, oh, this looks fun.
Yep.
And then I
Yeah.
I dragged one of my buddies from high school out to come and run the AV for it because I didn't know what
Right.
I was doing. So he set up all the sound and everything. I
Yep.
was like monitoring the levels, and I was just like,
Yeah.
oh well, here we are.
So just,
Yeah,
I know you said all that stuff, but just remember,
I'll try my best to remember.
the Harbor Cruise
It
gig,
was a big
bro.
one.
Like,
Yeah,
yeah,
there's a reason I
man.
forgot it. That video was terrible.
Oh man. So, yeah, I just thought I'd throw that out
Yeah,
there,
no,
right?
I'll remember it. I'll
So
remember it.
then, so you got going in 2020 and then you just took off. Like, when did you decide to move to Spain? Like, how did
It
that
was the midway
happen?
through 2020 because I was taking a broader view at what I was doing, where I was in my career, and where I wanted to go. And my general rule when it comes to videos is that every video needs to be better than the last. Now,
Yeah.
when you post as much as I do, it's difficult to keep to that rule. So at some point, you have to kind of stretch it out to like, okay, every major video production, etc., needs to be better than the last. And so it's that hunt for growth and improvement that made me look at not necessarily the status of the championship, but the status of where I was in the championship. And so at
Right.
the time I was working with M4, which is essentially Factory Suzuki. So I've already got one of the factory teams as a client. The only other one is Attack. And at the time, there you guys had a different filmer, and I was like, okay, well, I could stick for another year and work
Yeah.
with you guys, but I don't know if I can guarantee that. And at the same time, that's
Right.
only a slightly smaller step ahead of Factory Suzuki in terms of like prestige. And so I was like, for the sake of the story, we'll just stick with that.
Okay.
Um, the only other way to really elevate would be to go over to Europe. And so I was like, okay. So I started doing the research. I'm like, okay, I can be in Europe for up to 3 months on a passport every 6 months. So that means that I can go live and work in Europe and do whatever I want for 3 months. So I was like, okay, well, I'll go first 3 months of the year and I'll go see what the deal is. And so I was talking with a few people and trying to get the lay of the land, before I went over. And I found that, so for those who don't know, Dorna is the governing body of World Superbike, Junior GP, and MotoGP. They control everything, namely the media rights. So anything that's Dorna sanctioned, Dorna organized, Dorna affiliated, it's no go for filming for your own content. Now, obviously, if you go for a team rider, then it's okay, you have to abide by the rules, but you have
Unless you,
the
like, have a
ability to
meeting
do it.
with them and get special sign off and that cool text sticker.
Yeah. Yeah. Anyway, so the exception are privately organized events, aka testing.
Mm.
And I found that 90% of World Superbike tests are privately organized by teams, which means Dorna is not affiliated with them in any degree. They might have a representative, creating media for socials and whatnot, but they're not Dorna tests or events, which means I have free reign. So I was like, okay, well, let me go to move to Europe. So I went to Barcelona because that's one of the big hubs for training, for motorsports and whatever. A lot of riders live up there in Andorra. Some teams are based there. And I didn't really have a plan, but I was like, if I'm gonna really, my goal was to be the best in the world. If I want to be the name that everyone thinks of when they think of road racing movies and video. And so I decided, okay, I'm gonna take the risk while I'm still young, while I have my parents as a slight backup, because I moved to Spain when I was 20 years old.
Right.
So first time out of the country, I was moving to Spain by myself. Didn't know anyone there for the most part. No friends, no family.
Right.
For the most part, Christian Daniel Jr. was up there, and they helped me get settled a lot. Um, but I mean, I stepped out of the airport and I didn't know what I was doing. I had no signal once I left the safety of the Wi-Fi. Like I didn't know where I was going. It was a shit show.
So you're like 20, you're like basically backpacking in Europe,
Literally, with all my camera equipment and a
professionally couch
giant,
surfing.
yeah, yeah. And so, real quick, a lot of my first 3 months were some of the most chaotic but successful of my time in Europe because this backtrack to 2020 real quick. I'll try and keep this concise.
Whatever, man.
At the Ridge, if you remember, PJ Jacobson got really hurt at Road America, the fireball crash.
Yeah, that's right.
So HSBK had Lorenzo Zanetti, who's a Ducati test rider, come and fill in. I basically went up to him. I was like, hey, look, nice to meet you. I'm a filmmaker, video guy. I'm looking at coming to Europe and racing in filming the CIV championship. It'd be really cool if we could work together. I'm going to be doing some stuff. I want to come film the Italian championship. And he's like, yeah, cool, sure. And so we kept in contact. We got each other's contact, chatted a bit, and he was like, okay, cool. Fast forward to Laguna, which is the last round. If you remember, Matthew Skoltz got injured at Indy, broke his foot. And so Nicola Canepa came and filled in. And he was also a Yamaha test rider, also raced in Endurance World Championship. And so I did the same thing. I went and approached him. I was like, hey, look, I'm a filmmaker, whatever. I'm looking at coming to race, film in Endurance World Championship because I knew that they allowed filming too. Would be great to come work with you guys. Was wondering if we can, exchange numbers. And he said, sure. So exchanged contacts, whatever. We kept in touch, whatever. So I land in Barcelona, and buddy Michael Hill posts the testing schedule, and I was like, oh shit, there's a test in Jerez 3 or 4 days after I arrived in Barcelona at Jerez. And
Was
it was
that
like
a train ride?
no, literally, I took a train for the first time.
Yeah.
And I was like, screw it, I'm gonna go. And so I found the testing list of all the entries, and I was like, hey, this writer follows me. So I DM'd him. I'm like, hey, if you get me on the entry list to the test, I'll come film for you. He's like, sure. And so I couldn't figure out how to get tickets online. So I went to the train station in Barcelona. I was like, can you help me buy a ticket? And they're like, sure. And so I literally went up to the kiosk, and the person helped me buy a ticket because I didn't know what I was doing. And like 2 days later, I was on a train to Jerez filming my first test. It got rained out, so none of the teams went out, but we had Michele Pirot and Johan Zarco were doing press stuff for like Furigon or something. And so I posted a video of the two of them sliding in turn 4 at Jerez. Second video ever in Europe. And it did like 100K views or something, which was a lot for me because I was only at like 14,000, 15,000 followers.
Right.
And so that was a lot for me. And I was like, and so after that, Nicolo posted that they were gonna be testing for the endurance team. They had one at Almere and one at Valencia. I was like, where am I invited? And he's like, yes, mate, come. Can you come to Valencia? I'm like, sure. And so I ended up doing the same thing. I took a train out there, rented a car at the airport, and I didn't. When I came to Europe, I was like, okay, I'm not doing any more documentary series. I did too many last year. I'm just going to do social. And so I get a hotel, the same hotel they're doing across from the track. And they're like, mate, come join us for dinner. And so I sit down. And so I was like, hey, guys, how's it going? It's good. So we were talking, and we want to do a documentary series. I'm like, fuck. Like, another one. And so long story short, that's how I started working with Yamaha because like a week after the test, I was on a call with them and that like the head of marketing for the head of racing marketing. I don't even know what his position is, but long story short, I was on a call with Yamaha Europe talking about how we could do a documentary series. So that was like my first major client and my longest client while I was in Europe. And that's how I started working with them, which was really cool. And so, I mean, that whole 3 months was awesome because it was like at that Valencia test that we did, I posted a video of Marcel Schroeder or, Jonas Folger on the BMW. And like a week or two after that, BMW World Superbike team DM'd me. It was like, hey, we loved your video. Do you want to come out for a test? Next thing you know, I'm testing in Jerez with BMW, private tests. It was them, Bonovo, and then it was a media blackout because KTM MotoGP was testing there too, And that was like a really surreal one because I'm like, I'm out here with, proper factory BMW and there's no one here. Like, I don't even know if they had a photographer or not,
Wow.
And so I just kind of kept doing my thing. I was going test to test. I remember I went to the Mizzano test with Gerloff because he was at GRT. He got me in, and so I was, filming and whatnot. And then Lorenzo Zanetti texted me. He's like, "Hey, are you in Mizzano?" And I was like, "Yes, I'm just filming." We kept talking. He's like, "Oh, well, since you're there, do you want me to get you in contact with the team principal of Aruba Ducati?" I'm like,
Yeah.
"Yeah." And so, end of the test, I went and I had a chat with him. He introduced me to the press officer, and then like a few weeks later, I was in Catalunya working with Factory Ducati. I'm like, what's going on? And it
Yeah.
was and what it came down to, besides like making the effort to network, is the fact that what happened in Moto America and in the US is the same thing in Europe. No one was doing the short form content. And
Right.
I effectively I don't want to claim it, but I am claiming it. Is like I brought a new style of content to Europe, I, historically and chronologically, I was one of the, if not the first, to bring the short form to Europe. You
Hmm.
know, because when I went, there was only one person I could find really doing video, and I was like, it's an untapped market. I might as well go and make use of it, and that's what I did. That's how I got working with all these factory efforts.
Right.
And that's how I kind of got my start. I went there with no plan, and after those 3 months, I walked away with one of my biggest clients of those years. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So tell me about like what made you decide to make this doc? And I mean, took you how long to get that going? Like,
Hold on.
don't even want to envy you on that one, but like, what made you decide that you were gonna cut
Yeah.
this like epic motorbike race doc?
So back to my rule about how everything has to be better than the last. The first movie I ever did was in 2022. So Yamaha was still having me cover EWC, Endurance World Championship, and they had me coming out to film the 24 Hours of Spa. So this was, one of the big endurance races.
Yeah.
And so we had our little series going, and then I was like, well, I'm already here. It would be that much more difficult to do a movie. And so I made all a few calls, and I basically scripted it as it's a battle between the two big manufacturers, Yamaha and Suzuki. They're the two main teams.
Right.
And so I basically did a short film covering the entire event and the battle between the two. I interviewed all the riders, I covered all the bases, and I talked to, what they are, and it was a really good film. Um I may or may not have hired a commentator off of Fiverr to try and narrate it, and I was trying to get it done for the International Motor Film Awards because that's what I made it for myself, but I also made it for that because it's one of my goals to get an award from them. And I got nominated, so I made it into the awards. Went to London, did the whole thing. Did not win. That's okay. Um and
To get nominated is cool, right?
Yeah, hell yeah. Two-time baby. Anyway, so the issue was is that the deadline for those film awards was like 2 weeks after the event, or 2 or 3 weeks after the event. So I had like no time to edit. And then I was trying to work with the commentator to get it dialed, and I just ran out of time. I was like, I'm gonna have to run with it. So I literally launched the film on YouTube the day before the deadline for the film awards, and then I just applied. I'm like, screw it, I'm going. And so after that, I was like, okay, what's next? I got to do a bigger one. I was like, okay, at the time, so in 21, every 3 months I would go back home to the US and stuff. So I would film Moto America, then I'd go back to Europe and do endurance or whatever I was doing. For 22, I changed it up. Instead of going back home, I went to London because the UK is every 6 months. It's 6 months on
Mm.
passport. So I was like, okay, well, I'll go do BSB because in 2021 I went and filmed Cadwell with Brandon Posh.
Right.
And to date, my most successful video was filmed there. Was Josh Brooks jumping Cadwell Park. It's like 8.5 million views. Like that's my most successful video to date. And so the organizers saw and they were like, hey, this is really good. If you want to work with us and give us some footage, we'll let you do your thing. I was like, fair enough to me. And so I approached them. I was like, hey, you know, can I come and work with you guys? I'll provide footage if you guys let me, film in the paddock and work with riders and teams. They're like, sure. So that's how I started working BSB. And so I was like, okay, well, I'll go and shoot Cattle Park, and we'll do it. Actually, it's not far from the film that I just released, where the plan was to follow 8 riders and follow them throughout, Cattle Park.
Right.
Unfortunately, that film never came to fruition. There were some logistical things that just didn't work out, some agreements that couldn't be made, which is fine. So I was back to square one. What's the next big thing? And I was like, I've always wanted to do a autobiography piece. So I almost did one with Garrett Gerloff. Couldn't make the events work to film. And so I was like, well, Ken Peterson works, He's got a story, he's in Southern California. I can go film with him. They test at Buttonwillow. Why not? And so we were friends. So I messaged him. I was like, hey, do you want to do this? And he was like, sure. So I stayed with him for a week. I filmed everything, going to the gym, pick up a new helmet from Troy Lee Designs. We went into the Buttonwillow test. And turns out I have footage of him from almost every single year to that point from 2018 on. 18,
Right.
19, 20, 21. I missed 22 because I was in Europe, but 23. So we did an entire film on him. And that one is a fully polished piece. I think there are no flaws with that film, and it did very well. But then it came back to the whole point. It's like, what's next? I could do another event, but I'm like, that's kind of the same. I could do another autobiography, but it's like, who am I going to do? I'm like, it's all the same. And I was like, well, let me take a step back and look at the landscape of media, because I believe that there are 3 ways you can build a successful business. Build something completely new, like Airbnb, Uber. You can build something that's 10 times better than the last thing.
Right.
I'm blanking on examples for now. Or you can do a hybrid where it's like it's something semi-new, but it's way better than anything that's been done.
Right.
And so I started looking, and I'm just like, there's no documentaries that really explain or teach what road racing is. You have the old Faster, Fastest movies, which are fantastic, but
Dr.
A, they're
Tornado.
outdated because they're
Right.
early, they're early 2000s or the one that's in the 2010s. And B, they're only MotoGP. So they don't teach anything about superbikes, about anything, any other disciplines. It's only MotoGP. Same with the MotoGP Unlimited series. That's only MotoGP. The Between the Hedges for TT is only the TT. There's nothing that, like, if I want to introduce someone to the sport, sit down for 2.5 hours and then walk away either a fan or at least understanding what the sport is, there's nothing out there. And so I was like, well, I could, pitch it to a production house or a distributor, but that's going to take months, and the odds of them saying yes are slim to none. And if they do say yes, they're going to want to change everything, and I don't want to do that. So I was like, I could just do it myself, I was like,
On YouTube.
I was like, why not, And so I have it marked down the day I thought of it, March 13th, 2023. That was the day I thought of the idea. And
Okay.
so I basically was just trying to figure out, okay, what do I want to have in there? Have to have MotoGP, Moto2, Moto3, have to have a World Superbike, have to have endurance, have to have road racing. Moto America is a must because, Americans, And I was like, that covers almost every base. And so all of 2023 was organization, I can say this with pretty much extreme confidence that I am the only person in the world who could pull this off. Because no, hear me out. Hear me
Okay.
out. Okay.
Yeah, dude, I'm listening. This is
You
great.
could have, one of the
They
best
roll up the
production.
sleeves for this shit.
No, because you could have the best production house in the world, right?
Right.
They could come in and they could do, the same thing, cover all the bases, whatever. Okay. There's 2 issues with this. Number 1, everything's going to be organized by either them or the organizers of each championship, right? So it's gonna be a big studio with the lights, and the riders are getting dragged from their hospitality or whatever to go do media duties, sit down, they answer your questions. The big production crews follow each rider around XYZ, and you do a very, very good production, very similar to what Netflix does with Drive to Survive. But what you miss is the the intimate moments with the rider and you miss the personal connection with the rider. That's why almost every single rider interview that I did in the movie is done in the house on the couch or on the
Right.
sofa or on the chair
Okay.
or in the garage, wherever it is. Because I feel like, and this is not necessarily a bad thing, but all of the big sports documentaries now are so polished and professional and stuff that it creates a gap between the viewer and the subject, you know?
So you wanted
It,
a element of realism.
yes, because I feel like it puts
Okay.
them, all these athletes, on a pedestal,
They're
and
just
like
regular dudes.
yeah, it subconsciously separates the fact that, you are the viewer and these are high level athletes, I want to remind you that, yeah, they're high level athletes, but they're also just people, they're also just
Yeah.
dudes, they're
Yeah.
cool people. And so
It's good.
my goal was to like really make sure that people remember, like, these are just humans, and they're,
Right.
most of them are really cool. And
Mm.
so that's something you don't get when you have these big efforts behind, like every single rider I filmed, for the most part, I'm friends with, like
Yeah.
95% of them, I called them up, was like, hey, can I come over and do an interview? Sure. Here's my address, and that's something that I feel like is missing from a lot of productions. And that's something that, like I said, with confidence, like I had all the contacts and I knew all the writers close enough to be like, hey, can I come over and do an interview? Like, okay, there's
Right.
people who have the skill to film the way I film. 100%. I'm not gonna
Right.
deny that. I'm not talking from that standpoint, like I'm the only one who can do it, but from the aspect of the connections with the riders, the connections with the teams. Like for the World Superbike segments, I had to organize with the Yamaha press officer, the Ducati press officer. With BMW, I had to speak with BMW, like Motorrad, like in Germany, like the official guys, to organize an interview with Top Rack. Like that was a pain in the ass. You know, I I worked very hard over my years in Europe leading up to those points in 2024 when I did those interviews to get to a point where I could say, "Hey, can we organize this interview?" You know,
Right.
and I also would like to give myself credit to the work and effort of the networking to get to that point.
Right.
And so sometimes it even shocks me how many writers I was able to get into that movie, because there's
Dude, the list was just like on and
it was
on.
just
I was like,
on out. There's
holy shit,
55
dude.
people in the film,
I
including
and I
writers
also
there.
noticed that you did give yourself credit in the credits, like,
Hell yeah. Dude,
produced
no one
by,
funded it. This was out of my own
everything.
pocket. I'm still paying bills for that, by the way. I'm gonna give myself credit. That's why my name's plastered
Man,
everywhere, and I have no shame. I
that's
even I
awesome.
in the credits I was like, I messaged some person like, is this too like, is this too much? And they're like, fuck it, it's fine. And
Right.
don't worry, I was like, yeah, it feels like a lot, and they're like, yeah, it's fine. I'm like, fair enough.
So tell me
So
about this premiere thing that you got going on with this thing.
yeah, so it's unfortunate timing because I really wanted to do it before release on YouTube, but um I the the film that I released on YouTube is not the ideal version.
Oh,
There's a lot of footage that I was not able to use and a lot of footage that I was not able to license.
okay.
So Dorna MotoGP does not exactly license to YouTube products. You need
Okay.
a distributor behind you to be able to do that. That's
Right.
my understanding. World Superbike, I know all the people there, so they were very flexible with me, and so they gave, they allowed me to license footage. That's why there's a lot of footage in the World Superbike sections from Dorna.
Right.
So I have to give them thanks. But MotoGP, I was not able to do that. So I approached Iconic Motorbikes, and I was like, hey, I want to do this premiere. I want to have a screening where people can come and watch the movie in person, because the version on YouTube has
Yeah.
watermarks, it has ads, commercials, and it's missing that footage that I really want to add to make the ideal version of the film. So I was like, hey, I want to have a screening so that I can show this, director's cut of this movie.
Right.
What can we do? Oops, sorry. What can we do? And so he was like, well, it's actually, funny you say that. We've been meaning to have a grand opening for our new location. And I was like, well, this looks like a perfect opportunity. So we've been working on this for the close to a month now of having, a joint operation where
Right.
it's the grand opening of their new location, and at the same time, it's the first in-person. I'm gonna call it premiere. Okay, it's from release, but it's a premiere for my film,
Okay.
and so it's gonna be, it's gonna have footage that's been never seen before. I threw in some of my MotoGP footage, just
Okay.
because why not spice up the video. But it's also the opportunity to, 3 years I've been working on this film, and it's the first opportunity to really give one of my projects the proper exposure and experience that it deserves.
Okay.
Like, it's over 2.5 hours of content that I spent a lot of time doing, and I wanna give it the credit it deserves, and I wanna
Yeah.
give it the experience it deserves. So that's why I'm going to the effort of having an in-person premiere, food, drink, and, Iconic's gonna bring out cool bikes, so you can go and view, and it's gonna be a real cool event,
Right.
and I'm really happy that we were able to, well, it's still to come, but to pull it off, and to make it happen. So I'm excited. It's gonna be cool.
It sounds cool, and now that you said all that stuff, now I understand why you banned your parents from watching the doc until
Hell
the
yeah.
you
All my
want them to
friends have
see it
watched
how
it.
it's
And
supposed to be seen, right?
well, no, it's like all my friends have watched it. I'm just like, well, at least wait, like there's gonna be a cool event. We can watch on a big screen with speakers and people and stuff, like wait till it's a good thing. But I'm like, okay, you two, you have to wait. I want the first time you see the full film. Like, they've seen sections of
Yeah,
it, but the full film in its entirety, I want you two to wait. So
that's cool.
yeah, I think it's within reason.
Yeah, that's one of the notes that your dad sent me,
Yeah.
that, to ask you about why you're but, like, you answered it before I asked it, so,
Yeah. I mean, it's there will be people at the premiere who have not seen the film, but there's gonna be a good chunk who have. And I want
right.
at least pretty much everyone I know who's going to the premiere has
Yeah,
already seen the release version. And okay, yes, there's some small changes to the director's cut, but I want to have people who I know and I'm close with who haven't seen the entire movie fully to be able to experience that with me, because I want to see their reactions.
dude, I'm gonna
And
be out of town. I wish I could be there, but I'm gonna be out of town, bro.
slacking.
No, I'm just, I'm going through shit, bro. You know what I
Hey, I'm
mean?
not blaming you. I'm not blaming you.
So, you know, the thing that impresses me the most about your doc is just like the wide array of topics you covered,
Yep.
like from you like bounced around, you
Yeah.
had the announcer guys, you had the
Yep.
racers, you were doing
Yeah.
like the almost like the confessional kind of thing,
Yep.
right? But
Mhm.
then you digging into the training and
Yep.
like it's pretty interesting how like hardcore the training really is,
Yeah, and
like
it's I one of the things I was struggling with, because before I even started producing, I had a couple calls with various people within the industry, people who work with Amazon Prime, Netflix, people who've been nominated by Emmys. Like, I was trying to get as much advice and preparation before I started filming as I could and before I started editing, just so
right,
that I could, I knew what I was getting into, you know?
right,
And when I was in talks with one of the executive producers of kind of a production house that works a lot with Amazon Productions and shows and whatnot, he's like, when Amazon buys projects, one of the big things they look for is a seamless and linear, storyline. Something that has
right,
beginning, middle, end, has a character arc, has, a champion arc is a very popular one. Something that has a progression.
right,
And that was something that was very difficult for me to cover when I want to cover so many topics. Because I could have a great film following one of those championships from start to finish and covering all the bases of it, but that doesn't accomplish my goal of creating a one-stop shop for of
right,
media where you can learn everything about the sport that you need to.
right,
And so it was very difficult, and I still don't even fully believe that I did it as well as I could, but it was very difficult to string everything together in a way that wasn't bouncing too much. But in the end, you can only keep it so linear when you're covering such a variety of things. You know what I mean?
right, right,
And so one of the things that one of the other things that kind of hindered that timeline is the fact that like I said, there is restrictions once the season starts, you know?
Oh, dude.
As
Yeah.
soon as World Superbike hits the track on free practice 1, race 1, I can't post anything of what I film, you know?
Right. Yeah.
So everything I have to film has to be in testing, private events. There were some exceptions, you know, Moto America, around the watermark, I'm good to go, more or less, you know.
Right.
Armoy, the road racing section of that, this one was I had meetings with Ironman TT, I had meetings with Northwest 200.
Right.
It was difficult to get a series that would accommodate me, you know, for the project that I was doing, because in the end there are TV rights, you know, there's media rights, and
Yeah.
it's difficult to find someone who's okay with what I'm doing and not going to charge me, because in the end, like, anyone with media rights, they're going to want compensation for those media rights, you know?
Right.
And I don't
Right.
have the budget to spend that much money, you know?
Yeah.
And so Armoy is a very grassroots event. It's a cool event. It's awesome. When it's in Northern Ireland, first time in the country. Some of the nicest people I've ever met. Every single person there just wants to help you. It was awesome. It was one of my
Hmm.
best events. I have nothing bad to say about them, but that was an event where they went like all hands on deck to help me. You know what I mean? Like, I arrived and I talked to my point contact there, and he's like, "Oh, I'll come pick you up." I'm like, "Sure,
So they just
okay."
let you loose in there.
Basically. And
That's
so
awesome.
he was like, "Oh, I'll come pick you up." And then he literally took me for a lap around the track. He's like, "Oh, yes, this is a great place to film. You could do this, that." And I'm like, "Sick." And so, you know, I did my best to string it together with the filming that was allowed, you know,
Right.
because ultimately, if I can't film the season. Because if I could film the season, I could literally be like, okay, we're opening round of MotoGP. You know, these are the riders, blah blah blah, and then I go to, you know, round 2 of World Superbike, or like do 3 rounds throughout the year and follow a different rider, blah blah blah,
See,
and
that's
then
that explains why the doc doesn't have that, like, that narrative
yep, I
that,
can't film it. You
you
know,
can't do the hero shot thing because
yeah.
the access is weird.
And it's one of those things where it's
Okay.
like I didn't even bother asking because I know they can't afford it, you know? And it's
Yeah.
like, okay, I'm licensing footage from the 2024 season and previous seasons from Dorna, and they're giving me a great deal compared to what I was expecting, but it's still a lot for the average person, you know? I'm not gonna
Right.
disclose price because that's not, it's not my
Right.
business to share,
But it's
but
still that's a lot,
I'm
dude.
still having to pay just to use footage in my doc, you know, from years past, you know?
Right.
I'm using footage from 15, 16, 17 in other years.
It's footage that you shot.
No, this is broadcast
Oh, okay.
footage. But
Okay.
some of it, well, it's funny because the broadcast footage I have to pay, but my own footage I don't have to pay for, which is interesting because I thought I'd be both. So,
Okay.
but that's why there's no race footage really, because I couldn't.
Okay. That makes
So,
sense. That makes
and
sense.
a lot of people I don't think understand the I won't call it bureaucracy, but the logistics that go into like dealing with Dorn and getting the permission, you
Yeah,
know?
bro. Like, I remember Jackson and I got pulled into that thing at Estoril, and they had the big sit down with us, and like I'm the
Oh,
handheld
really?
guy. I'm the gorilla dude
Yeah,
that just sticks the camera in dudes'
yeah,
faces, right?
yeah.
And they were like, "Well, what are you doing this for?" They were very
Mhm.
questioning me, and
Yes, yes, yes.
and then it was like the one guy watched some of my shit and was like, "Oh, this is what he does, whatever." And then they were like, "Oh, your stuff's way too long." And I'm like, "No, dude, like my stuff's long because it's not just what I do here. It's like on the way here, it's the
Yeah,
storyline, it's the ride the car with the, you know
yep,
what I mean?"
yeah,
And so they signed off on it. Like it
yeah,
was,
yeah,
and I got the little I still have it on my camera actually because I
yeah.
thought it was cool to have
I
like
do too. Yeah,
the yellow
yeah.
Dorna like
I got
sticker.
my Valencia sticker on my red, like, right on the
Yeah,
monitor and
dude.
stuff. Yeah,
Yeah.
of course. I'm not getting
Sick.
rid of that.
Yeah,
So,
so
yeah,
it's, I get it, dude. It's
yeah,
and the guy was, like, very adamant, like, when it took me a long time to post those vlogs from Estoril and Jerez because
mhm,
I had to wait for them to sign off on it.
yep, yep,
Like, they had to watch it unlisted before I could
yep.
publish it.
I had to do the same with my film. You know, I didn't do every section, but the ones with the footage that I licensed from them, I had to
Yeah.
send them. And fortunately, it signed off. There was some back and forth and stuff and some explaining, but I mean, in the end, it was
Yeah.
fine. But you know, and it's not like I don't blame them. You know, in the end, it's a business. You know,
Dude,
and they have.
they own the shit, dude. It's their
I mean,
playground. They make the
it's
rules.
yeah, they make the rules, and it's like
Yeah.
it's not like and I'm not complaining because it's just what it is, you
Yeah.
know. And in the end, I'm fortunate enough that they even allow this, you know what I mean?
Right.
Like, okay, the
Yeah.
testing they can't say anything about because it wasn't their events, you know. Every
Right.
single test was organized by KRT, by Ducati, by whoever, Honda. Um,
But on
but
the actual
they can
event,
still
like,
make my life hell if they want to, you know?
the moment the bikes leave the garage, you got no access, right?
Yeah,
Like, you could do all the team stuff in the no problem, but man,
yeah.
the moment they roll out, that's
On the race weekends, yeah.
mhm.
So
And
and
then
well,
you're
and
limited to,
it's
like,
like
10-second clips.
yeah, and so and this is another thing where it's like I'm not really complaining, it's just more the reality of it. But it's like more soup like 2023, 24 when I was filming, I could not step foot outside of the box.
Yeah.
The line where the
Oh,
flooring
yeah.
ends, I would get yelled at for stepping outside of it.
Oh, yeah,
And
100%.
and it took me a while to understand that because I didn't understand what the rules were because in 22, like I said, I worked for Dorna, I had full access, so I assumed that that's just how it was.
Mm.
And so it was funny because in 23, I did my first MotoGP round with Maverick Vinales at Catalunya. And I thought it'd be the same. And they're like, oh, yeah, dude, you can pretty much go anywhere but trackside. I'm like, so like park for me. He's like, yeah, sure. I'm like, oh, shit. So like that was the
Crazy.
best weekend ever because I'm like, I finally stretched my legs. You know, I could go on the grid, go to pit lane. You know, I can go do whatever I
Yeah.
need. I was like, this is amazing. And then obviously last year, you know, 2025, both championships opened up filming. So like you could go trackside for World Superbike and MotoGP. So
Dude, they wouldn't let me, they made me cut out all my grid stuff.
really,
And I was just, like, walking around, like, fist bump, whatever, you know what I
yeah,
mean? They made me cut all that out, dude.
interesting.
Like,
Yeah,
I was like, "Okay, man, like, it's your
because you're
party, so
American.
cool."
I was a resident Spaniard at the time.
Oh,
Um,
there you go.
but yeah, so like last year GP was the best time because I did I think 7 or 8 rounds and 2 tests and I had full trackside access for the entire thing because obviously I was working for Alex Rins, MotoGP, you get it wherever you want, you know, when you're working for them.
Right.
So it was really cool because I got to go to all these, you know, world class racetracks, best riders in the world, and I could
Yeah.
film pretty much whatever I want. I mean, I couldn't
Yeah.
use any of it, but I could film whatever I want, you know?
Oh, yeah, dude.
And that is, you know, okay, yes, you know, there's a lot of restrictions, you know, when it comes to working with Dorna. There's a lot of difficulties when it comes to working with Dorna, and there's a lot of I believe missed opportunities, you know, just based on restrictions. I still gotta film MotoGP, you know. Like
Yeah.
I gotta film some I got like one of my favorite clips, you know, of all time is I have in full 4K slow motion Quadraro T-boning the shit out of Bastianini at Hungary in the sprint race, just full on, just like in slow motion. And I just watch it
Oh,
over. I'm like, this is sick, you know.
that's
And
awesome.
so, and you know, that's the stuff that is I'm gonna keep with me, especially now that I'm not in Europe anymore. You know, I'm not doing that. You know,
I was gonna ask you about that, like, you kinda made, like, a goodbye post.
yeah.
Tell me about
So
that, dude. Like, are you burned out? Like, you or did you
no,
get a
not
real job?
necessarily. It came down to the fact that as an American living in Europe, it's expensive.
Yeah.
You know, between all of the travel, the visas, you know, the taxes that I have to pay because I do have to pay taxes. Um, it just is just expensive. And honestly, the first year is what really did me in because I racked up a lot of credit card debt trying to make it, you know.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, I got all these clients and whatever, and had in the end I had, you know, a good paying, you know, r- revenue and roster, but it's the months in the travel and the logistics that led up to it, you know. It's like,
Right.
okay, you know, my last 3 years in Europe, I had a great, you know, living scenario where I was paying cheap rent and I had roommates and it was all fine and dandy. But when I first moved there, I was paying, you know, $1,000 a month, you know, for for rent, and I was paying way more in groceries than I probably should have. And my rental cars, I didn't know how to find cheap ones, so I was paying like twice or three times as much as I would pay now that I know, So it was like,
Right.
if I didn't have the money, it was going on a credit card. And
Right.
you know how credit cards are. Once you get to a certain point, it eats you alive with interest,
Dum 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 dum.
Yep, your minimum payments don't eat into it very much, And
No.
so in the end, I racked up a lot of debt, and as great as MotoGP was, I had to kind of restart because in World Superbike I had everything organized, like I knew everyone in the paddock, everyone knew me. I had my, my consistent not salary, but my consistent, contract paycheck from Yamaha. So I
Right.
knew roughly this day I was getting paid this amount every single, every single quarter. And it was comfortable. But as soon as Yamaha went through a lot of changes and they cut a lot of their media budget out, as soon as that was done, I basically was like, okay, well, I mean, there's not really any there was no clients that would have the budget needed to sustain me in World Superbike. I'm like, oh well, we're gonna try MotoGP.
Peace out.
And so I went to MotoGP, and it's so funny because I started working with Diogo Moreira, and I remember pulling up to the 2025 Portimao test, and I messaged him, was like, hey dude, can I come and grab a quick word from you for the movie? And he's like, hey mate, I spoke with my manager, and we got the green light to work with you this year. Can we meet? I'm like, when the fuck did I tell you that I was doing MotoGP? Because at some point in 2024, I told him that I was doing it. I don't remember when, but apparently I told him.
Right.
And so it was just funny how it worked out. So in the end, I worked with some riders, but it just wasn't enough to be able to eat into that debt. And I was just like, I'm tired. Like I'm tired of
Yeah.
And it's not
Tired of the
like
grind.
yeah, and it was like it's not that I wasn't making money over there, but it wasn't enough to offset the starting cost, Like
Right.
if I did how I started now with everything I knew, and if I had my existing living stuff situated, I probably would have
Right.
been much better. But all the costs to get started in Europe is what ate away.
Right.
And so I was just like, it's my visa expires in next year, so this year it expires. Um, I'm gonna be off, so I'm 25 now.
Right.
As soon as I 26, I'm no longer able to be on my parents' healthcare, you know?
Oh, so you're gonna have to get
So
your own
I have to get
shit.
my own healthcare. So it's like on top of all the other expenses to live in Europe, I then have to get healthcare as well because I'm not covered, you
Right.
know? And so I was just like, okay, maybe it's time to take a step back from the
Get a real job.
freelance and get a 9 to 5. Because when I moved to Europe, I had a 3-year plan. The first
Mhm.
year was to get settled and do domestic championships. That was my goal. And I did Spanish championship, German championship, and obviously a bunch of other stuff. I did World Superbike testing, British Superbikes, I did endurance, etc., etc. Second year was supposed to be World Superbike. I wanted to do a full season of World Superbike with a paying contract. And year 3 was supposed to be the same, but for MotoGP. Okay,
Mm.
so it got spread to 5 years. My first year was getting settled. My my second year was endurance with one World Superbike round, which I counted at the time. Um, and then the next 2 years were World Superbike full time, like nearly full season, paying job, everything. And my fifth year was MotoGP. So for in my eyes, okay, I didn't do a full season MotoGP, but in my eyes, I checked off all the boxes,
Right.
because I knew that I did not want to do client work for the rest of my life
Okay.
because I very much like being in control of my directory. And after a while, relying on clients to pay you gets exhausting,
Yeah.
especially because clients will lag sometimes and they're not going to pay you on time. And if you're waiting to pay a bill or you have rent coming up and you're waiting on a paycheck for that, like that's stressful.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I was like, okay, I remember I came back in September because I went to Ashton Wright's wedding. And I was like, well, I'm back home because everyone went off to the Asian races. So I was like, I might as well stay home for like a month and a half and just
Right.
kind of relax.
Ride motorbikes at the car
Yeah.
track.
Yeah. And so I was like, okay, well, if I'm gonna be here, I might as well start applying for jobs. And so, I went back to Europe and got a job offer. So now I'm 9 to 5, and I'm now in the process of clearing off all the debt that I stacked up.
What's your 9 to 5 now?
Same thing, it's video. I work for a company called Throttle. They build it's this is a simplified version, but they build custom cars and they make
Okay.
videos on YouTube for them.
Oh, okay.
And so very successful, they're a major player when it comes to the industry.
Cool.
So we work with a lot of big brands, and so now I'm doing content for them. So it's within the same genre, and I got very lucky because it's not far off what I was doing before, and it's exciting work.
That's
I mean,
cool.
we're building some sick cars.
That's epic, dude.
And so my plan now is to spend the next several years kind of resetting from all the debt and the things that the expenses I made over in Europe, and
Okay.
kind of take the next several years and set my life up to be good to go for the rest of it. So
Okay.
I want to, obviously next step is going to probably be getting a car, because I'm driving a truck right now. I want to get like a proper car. I want to get in a serious relationship, find a
Yeah,
life
I've heard
partner,
your
hopefully.
dad said you were single, so
I'm very
yeah,
single.
he made sure
Um, and
everybody
so
let just to let everybody know, Gray Pham is single.
yeah, if you're
Um,
sister's daughter, no, I'm just kidding. No,
hide
so
your kids, hide your wife.
I'm back
Wow.
in town. No, so I want to get, I wanna get a car, I want to get in a relationship.
Yeah.
I want to start getting an investment portfolio going
Okay.
because I have some stock in Apple, but it's like 10 shares, it's nothing much, but I want to start getting like my Roth IRA up, my 401k up. I want to
Sounds
start
like some
getting
grown shit, bro.
yeah,
Like,
dude.
what?
Because and the reason I'm doing this because ideally within the next 5 years, I'm going to I mean, I'm not gonna say that there's nothing guaranteed, but I'm gonna start my next business venture.
Oh,
And this is gonna be it's gonna be in line with motorsports, but it's gonna be away from media.
oh,
And first time I've said this in public, but the goal would be to create a motorsport centric kind of creative hub where it's basically like a mix between a bar and cafe and a lounge that's
that's cool.
motorsports themed. So it'll be, in the mornings we serve cafe, like cafe stuff, so coffees and whatever, some breakfast items, and then
Okay.
come time lunch, beers, bar stuff. I want to serve. I'm a big fan of smash burgers, so I wanna have a
Okay.
smash burger restaurant
So you're
inside.
gonna get into the food business, kinda.
Not necessarily. The idea is that I would rent a space within the location to a restaurant who would do
Okay.
then chef it up.
Have like a pop-up kinda
Kind
deal?
of, yeah, kind of. And then
Okay.
the idea would be that that's one half of the establishment, the other half will be a museum with rider
That's sick,
memorabilia,
dude.
suits, helmets, boots, etc. So like I've been collecting like different little
Dude,
knickknacks from Europe and whatnot.
I'm stoked on you, man. Like, you're,
Yeah.
you got some ideas. You've
I've
always
been
had the
wanting to
ideas.
I've wanted to do a location like this for a long time, and now that I'm in that transition period, I have the time to start planning, so I've got some mentors who are gonna help me, kind of plan it
That's
out,
neat,
plot it out,
man.
make sure that it's good to go. I think the next thing is starting to, I've already collected one rider suit. I have not told them that I have it. I may have stolen it. That's besides the point. Um, and like we have like race body work up in the rafters, from like
Okay.
Tommy Hayden and back in the Kawasaki heyday.
Yeah.
I'm gonna start collecting, rider motocross jerseys. I'm gonna see if I can get some GP suits. I'm gonna start,
In the chat, there's a dude saying there better be tacos.
of course, bro. We're in San Diego. I don't know if it's gonna be in San Diego, LA, where it's gonna be. That's to be determined. But
Okay.
I think it's gonna be wherever I end up. But
Right on.
that is like the next big thing because it's like I said, I don't want to do client work anymore. I want something that I'm gonna be passionate about. And like I can totally imagine like Saturday night, we have Supercross viewings, and then Sunday morning we
Yeah,
have
dude.
MotoGP viewings,
That's awesome.
and like every weekend we have a different race on, Formula One, NASCAR, whatever.
Yeah,
Like I could totally see it being like a space for motorsports enthusiasts of all, walks of life. And then
I'm
we
into
have,
it, man.
bike
That's
shows,
cool.
car shows, cars and coffees, like I
Yeah,
want it to be a place for people who like it, but also people who just want to have a cool place to hang out.
that's
That's like
neat,
kind of
man.
the vision. So
Well, great. You know what, man? We're like an hour and a half into this
yeah, I got
thing.
carried away.
Dude, I'm
Sorry.
so proud of you for this, dude. Like,
It's
and
it's a long time coming.
epic job on the dock, man. Like,
Thank you. I appreciate it.
wow, bro. And anybody that's local here, check out the what's the link again? It's like iconic something.
Yeah, we actually just sold out. We sold
Oh,
out
it's
today. It's
sold out.
it's
Womp
sold
womp
out.
womp.
Yeah,
Well,
sorry.
you're gonna have to
I
have another
will
screening.
say I am trying to do two more viewings towards the end of March. So
Okay.
once I can nail those down, they'll be announced.
Yeah, maybe I'll actually get to go to that one,
Yeah. So I think
unless
it'll be
I'm,
cool.
you know,
This is the
traveling.
first one. I'm gonna need like
Yeah.
a solid like 2 weeks of like nothing related to the movie afterwards, but then after
Yeah.
we'll be going. So
Right on, man.
yeah. So
Well, you know what? Let me see if I can go to the chat, see if there's
yeah, no
anything
worries,
in
no
there that we
worries.
can. Okay, so yeah, so basically you're saying like the guy Brian Russell saying it's sort of like bike shed meets barber.
Exactly. So Bike Shed is actually where I got the first inspiration because when I was living in London, I went to a MotoGP viewing party at
Yeah.
the London location. It's actually funny. A follower of mine on Instagram invited me. I'm like, yeah, I don't know anyone in London. Sure, I'll go. And
Yeah.
so I pulled up, and it was a really cool event, and the location was cool. I'm like, this would be so cool. And then the other inspiration was Motodofo, because
Yeah.
I'm friends with Damien.
Winery.
So
Yeah.
I mean, the first time I went there, I was like, this is awesome. Like, this is something that I want to do.
And
And
then
so, yeah,
and then Ryan in the chat, he's Throttle Sauce Ryan.
yeah.
He says he's kind of laughing that you didn't introduce David Alonso until like 2 hours in.
Yeah, well, because I was like, so I could have put him in the Moto 3, but I was like, it'd be cool if he was like a little like Easter egg. I was like, oh shit, he like world champions in here too. Because I was like, I could have easily done it, but then it spoils it that like he's at the end because I feel like it was the perfect reveal because it's all just a silhouette, and then all of a sudden you go past the person, it's like, oh shit, it's
Yeah.
Red Bull helmet, and then it's like, oh, how did you get him? Which was a pain in the ass, by the way, because we were messaging on Instagram about doing it. And then when I showed up to ask him, he didn't recognize me. And so I was like, hey, can we do the interview? He's like, sure. And then we were walking. He's like, what's this for? I was like, oh, I messaged you on Instagram for the movie. He's like, oh, that's you? I'm like, oh, God. Yep, that's me. Mm-hmm. So,
So Abraham, I think he's Pacific Northwest guy. I think he's talking about the guy named legendary Eugene Brown. He passed away in December.
okay,
He's the guy that everybody referred to as No Lean Gene, I think. And this guy, Abraham, saying that he would totally donate a bike to your museum.
that would be
So,
cool. I would
yeah,
love that. So
yeah,
one of the things that and obviously this is to be determined, but I would love to get like at least one or two display bikes,
yeah.
something that's like essential. And I also would like to get some system set up where we can have a display, like a display platform where we can change bikes out. You know what I mean? So like
Oh,
every month
cool.
we have a different bike, So like
That'd be cool.
people who can loan out bikes, and so another inspiration for the location will be Race Service. They're
Oh,
based in
wow.
LA and they do a lot of work with different like drivers teams. So Fabio Di Gianantonio does a lot of work with them.
Oh,
And so
okay.
every time they come out Dakota, he goes out to LA and does like, like Sunday rides with them, does media stuff with them. I want to do the same, where
That's
they,
cool.
local collections letting out a bike, and then I have riders that's come out and like we go for, do media stuff, press stuff. I think that is a cool aspect, to be able to
Yeah.
have a place where I can collaborate, because it's like, okay, yeah, come out to California, we'll shoot a video. That's cool. But like, hey, come out to our location, you can come do a ride with us and then, do autograph session or whatever, or
Right.
or whatever it is. I feel like
That's it.
there's
That's
more.
cool, man.
I
That's
think
super
there's
cool.
more opportunities when you have a physical location to host events. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So are you gonna get back to riding motorbikes again, or do you
A
think?
little
Or
bit, a little bit. I
okay.
may or may not be going to Chuckwalla next weekend after,
Okay.
possibly.
All
So
right.
it's I don't think I'll get back into racing. I did a mini
Yeah.
race like a year or 2 ago, and it was fun, and I got to go with my friends, and I may or may not have won because my old roommate Max took out a bunch of kids and let me win.
Well,
Um,
there you go. I
yeah,
mean,
yeah. Proudest moment of
Max is
yeah.
good for that kind of shenanigans, right?
Anyways, so but I didn't have the same drive
Yeah.
as I used to. Like even the race that I quote unquote won, I didn't even want to do. I'm like, oh, we have a second race. I don't want to do a second race. I already did one, and it's just I don't
So
have the same
funny.
drive, but I still like riding. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So
Yeah. Going and
I'm
riding,
gonna
throwing some wheelies up,
yeah,
like do the
yeah.
thing, right?
Well, now I have a recurring paycheck, so I can afford to go to Apex now. So
There you go,
so
dude.
yeah. So the plan is to start riding more, but it'll still be occasional.
Okay.
So because now that I'm back, I want to start having the social life that I didn't have in Europe. Because my
Yeah.
first 2 years, I was more or less alone.
Well,
I
you were
lived alone.
running around like that G.I. Joe character with all the
Yeah.
shit on,
I
like
mean,
a
I traveled
crazy
so
person.
much. I think like 2024, I flew like 50 something times.
Yeah.
Or something crazy like that, and it's just like when we're in Spain, I have like a couple friends and that's it. But now I'm back in San Diego. I have all my friends from high school, from college, like my entire friend group from university still lives in San Diego for the most part. So like I have
Yeah.
people to go do things now. I want to have that social life that I didn't have, you know what I mean?
That's cool.
So it's just one of those like kind of I'm still in that decompression phase from being a freelance in Europe. I'm still
Yeah.
kind of acclimating to being here and not having to do it. Okay, the movie kind of took away from that because it was
Yeah.
still kind of that grind trying to get done. But now it's done, I can
Now
kind of
you're
chill.
chilling. Now
Yeah.
you're on cruise
So
control, right?
yeah, it's a bit more relaxing.
Well, GP Ham, thank you, man, and,
Yeah,
thanks for
appreciate it
everybody for
coming on.
watching this
Yeah.
thing, and, feel free to mention in the comments if there's something that we left out or whatever,
Yeah.
but, dude, great. Thank you, man,
Yeah, of
and
course. It was a pleasure. Thanks for having me on.
yeah, and, everybody, please, like, subscribe, mash all the buttons,
Yeah, of course.
and I guess we'll catch you guys on the next podcast. We have a
Absolutely.
Track Days event coming up on March 14th and 15th weekend. Actually, we're gonna do a Revit fitting event
That's
that,
cool.
on the 14th, and, anybody that wants to get a suit measured up, like, come on out to March, man, like, we'll get the tape on you. 8 weeks later, you'll have a suit, man, so let's do it. This is
Oh
not
yeah.
a suit that's made in, uh Pakistan. It's legit Vercros action. So, I mean, let's go, right?
Yep.
Um, Sign up, everyone. Yeah, the fast writer, whoever that is, yeah, what he said in the chat. Um, Thanks again, Gray. Like
Of course, my pleasure.
this is super fun, man. And man, I'm bummed that I'm gonna miss your premiere, dude. But it sounds
Yeah,
like
dude.
you're gonna
Well,
have
like I
another
said,
screening, so I get
I'm hoping to have 2 more in March, so hopefully you can come out to one of
okay.
those.
Hopefully, I can get one of those because I
Yeah,
want to see your movie the way it's supposed to be
yeah.
seen.
It's so much better. There's
Yeah.
only small changes, but it's so much better.
Yeah. Right on, man.
So, perfect.
Well, peace out, dude.
See ya.